Welcome to the Time to Grow Up Dad podcast. Your host, Chong here, and today is the solo episode, a reflective episode really on the chat that I had with Dean Williams, and this is just a recording literally 3 minutes after I have finally edited the episode. So I think one of the big things that I took away from the episode, there was actually a lot. And for those who did listen to the episode or skipped a couple or even maybe just glanced to a certain point of the episode, I want to preface, yes, your boy is having a second one. We're not sure of the gender yet, as of this recording at least, but it is out there. So yeah, and I think having that chat with Dean was very, very timely because he has two and the third on the way as well. And a few things stuck out from the episode. I'm going to jump straight into it and reflect on it. The first one was something that he said where when you're having one child, it was quite easy to handle because mum can go get some rest while dad handles it, or dad can get some time to do jiu-jitsu in my case, and mum will attend it to him when it needs be. But when there's two, it's full on. It's going to be a wild ride, and I don't know how this will hold up, but we will see what happens in due time. He also did say something which I thought which actually made a lot of sense, which in hindsight was actually something I will take on board for sure, was if you've got two and one's a literal newborn and one sort of a toddler, 2 years old and beyond, and if both of them cry, attend to the one that is older, because they would have already developed that sense of belonging and attachment. And so when a 2+ year old starts whinging and whining, usually they are whinging and whining for a specific reason. Whereas if a newborn's whinging and whining, usually the newborn, they don't really know what they're doing. So from an emotional standpoint, it made sense to my head when Dean was telling me that to attend to the older one, aside from the younger one, which I thought was very, very important. And for those who also don't know, I am the only child in my family. So this is completely new territory for me. My wife has sisters, so growing up, she kind of knew there was obviously a sibling dynamic. In my case, I've never experienced that. So this is going to be a very interesting journey moving forward. And yeah, more to come, hopefully, as this podcast continues. I'll be able to maybe share a little bit of my journey on these sort of reflective episodes as well. A big thing that Dean was also talking about, and I think it is a very important topic, was communication. And I can't remember what he said. He trademarked it. I'm so bad at this. He wrote it down. Obviously, he deserves to get the trademark and beat me to the punches. But it was about communication. And more importantly, something that really stood out that made me go, aha, that is something that is so true. Not only to other people, and myself and Dean, we both work in the health and fitness industry, but it's probably even more prevalent when we're sort of talking to our kids, or when is that it is important to communicate to them and saying that, hey, mom, dad, whoever is going through some stuff right now, but we're handling it. And the most important thing out of all of this is that when we are communicating something, especially very emotionally invested, something that's very emotionally driving, something that is very emotionally driven, don't put the responsibility on them. Communicate and convey the message in a clear and concise manner to your best abilities, but don't make them feel like it is their responsibility. If you're working, or the way I interpreted this as Dean was talking, is if I'm working long hours and I can't spend time with him, and I'm gassed and I'm tired and I'm stressed, communicate that to them. However, don't make it, or don't communicate it in a way that it almost seems like it's their fault because mom or dad is out there in the world trying to make money, and we're coming back all tired, and when you want us to pick you up, we say, no, we're tired because we spent a whole day out there making money because of you. I don't think that's the right way to go. And that was a very, very key point in the conversation where I sort of almost stopped because, like I said in the episode, I sort of try to speak to my son every time he goes to bed, when I put him down and say, kind of narrate about my day and tell him a little bit about what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And it is very important, I think, as he grows up, for me to kind of get the message across and say, look, Dad's going through all of this. I'm handling it. I'm not handling it. But I need you to be certain and make sure that this is nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. It's just stuff Dad's going through. You're going to be going through some things as well. And just understand those are going to be situations where you will have to take responsibility. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. If you don't know the book, look it up. Really good book. Don't put those things on your kids. That was a very important part in the conversation, which I thought it's definitely something I need to take on board. Jumping around as well, Dean was also talking a little bit about how he grew as a person, where when his first was born, he became, I'm paraphrasing here, he became a father. And then when the second one was born, he became a dad. And he sort of set this up in two different examples, where when the first came, he understood the responsibilities of being, a father, the man of the house, because, he did say that he's a little bit more of a tradition, that he takes a little bit more of a traditional approach, which is all power to him for sure. And I can see that he's a hardworking man. But when the second one came along, he did also say, that was when I became a dad. And very timely from our conversations, he sort of mentioned that because of COVID, it really allowed him to change the way he functioned as a business owner, how he wanted to run his business, how we sort of look at things where things need to change if I want to be a dad. So whilst, again, I'm not too sure, I don't have Google up or ChatGPT up right now, but I'm pretty confident that the definition of being a father and being a dad is pretty similar, is sort of synonymous. But for some reason, when I say, are you a father or are you a dad? Or are you a mother or are you a mum? I'm assuming some parents might sort of hear that and go, yeah, I am a blah, 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 father or dad. There is a little bit of a difference, at least in my opinion. So I thought that was very interesting. And like we sort of jokingly talked about when Dean's third one comes along, we don't know what he'll become. He might be all knowing, all powerful at that point, which I thought would be a very scary Dean for sure. Dean and I go way back. He was possibly the first true boss I worked under, and he's a good man. And over the years, I've sort of seen him grow his business and sort of following him, stalking him on social media, and sort of looking at how he grows his own family. And I thought that was very, very interesting. One final note, one final reflective piece that Dean mentioned, which I thought was very interesting, is that, so I asked the question of what would you change looking back on your parenting journey so far? And he basically said nothing. And I thought this was quite interesting, a very contrasting answer to some people out there. And I guess the reason, and he sort of stated that, is because there's nothing he would change, because everything that he has done up to this point, right or wrongfully, has gotten him this far as a person, as a business owner, husband, father, dad. And I thought that was quite interesting because, for me at least, there will be times where I will sort of look back and go, I should have done that better. I should have done this better. I should have done that better. But when he said that, and funnily enough, this is actually very, very impromptu, it's me sort of thinking about it again, is, and for those who do jiu-jitsu, you will know this, you can look back at all the mistakes that you've done in a row, why you got tapped out, why you've got submitted, why you're not good enough. And you can always say why. You can look back and analyze all the mistakes, etc., etc. But in the end of the day, if you just keep moving forward and just keep doing the reps, just keep showing up, keep getting tapped out, keep getting tapped out, keep getting tapped out, keep getting crushed at side control, keep getting crushed under mount, keep getting crushed under close guard, and now you're getting out of close guard, and all of a sudden you're like, hang on, I'm getting tapped less. I'm still not winning, but I'm getting tapped less. And I think that's almost very synonymous to, I suppose, Dean's example there, where you can't really look back and want to change anything. Sure, there's some things that you might want to do a bit differently, but and he used sort of the Marvel analogy where Tony Stark going back in time, changing the timelines. That's so true, because unlike the Marvel universe, if you could really change something and do something different in the past, what you have right now will be completely different already. And he sort of mentioned that as that's why maybe Tony Stark was quite scared to go back and change time, because everything was already really good now. Why do I need to go back and change something at the risk of losing everything I have now? So I love that mindset. I think that's great. I think it shows, particularly for Dean, you get to see it in his strong character. You can see him in this person of always moving forward, always looking for the next thing. Sure, there's things that happened in the past, but why look back? Why look back at your mistakes? Surely you will learn from them, but always moving forward. And that's sort of the takeaway I had from the conversation I had with Dean, him and his journey on being a father. So that is all for today. Hopefully we'll get more guests on the show. We've got a couple more lined up. Hopefully things fall into place. And if there's any parents that you would like me to potentially have a chat with, or maybe if you're listening to this and you have some 2 cents to say on the matter, please reach out. I would love to have a chat. Until next time, stay safe and be well. Love yourself, love your family, and go out there and do the best that you can.